Hi guys, so we are going to be discussing the colored communities and education. Obviously, if you are not from South Africa, you would not understand what colored means, but here in South Africa, it refers to a mixed race person. So if you're listening to this from another country, please do not get offended whatsoever. Okay, so with me I have Miss Ashley Singh, and she is colored. If any of you guys feel like I'm doing some funny thing, she is colored. So the first question I have for you, Ashley, is what is your opinion on colored people and their fair treatment in school?
I think firstly we need to consider the whole dynamic. You have to look at it in a aspect from where the learner is actually from. So if it's from a colored community, obviously the child won't experience as much of fair or unfair treatment because it's in their home habitat. But I do feel like in certain areas, and I think it's the same with every race, there is some factors that are racist towards the learner or not. But I can say is that I feel like with colored people it's less recognized.
Yes.
I feel like because it's happened to black people so much, when it happens to coloreds it's looked as it's not racist, but it is. Discriminating against any race is racism at the end of the day. So yeah, I would say just like anyone else, we do experience it when in an environment where we dominated. I wouldn't know about with the majority. So yeah, I think it happens to everyone, and it's just something that has to be recognized over time, same as it does with every other race.
So did you go to dominantly colored schools in primary and high school?
Primary, yes. I would say my high school had relatively a fair amount of coloreds to African learners because our school was one of the only schools that offered isiZulu as a home language. So I think that's what increased the number of races in our school, I understand, because that allowed learners it gave them basically opportunity that the other schools in our area did not. Yeah. So I would say high school was mixed in a sense.
So isn't it, I don't know much about your area, we're not going to mention your area, but do a lot of people have access to higher education?
I think it's increasing over time now. I also think that our colored people aren't seeking the opportunities, but I will say that it was never offered to us in the past, so it makes it 10 times harder to get access to it now. And because our majority of our parents do not have a higher education, most did not complete high school even, we don't know the first steps to getting it. So I would say we disadvantaged in that sense to say that we have access to it. It's much harder for us to get a hold of it.
So you would say that in the colored community there are barriers to education?
There's quite a few barriers, but it's very rarely to do with us as young people. I feel like from the stages where we were supposed to be built up, I'm speaking before you even started primary school, it's very much to do with that and very little to do with the choices we make as adults, because remember, most of our parents never had a proper schooling, so educating us at home was 10 times more difficult. Another thing is most parents did not go to school, so they don't view school as important, and I feel like other races do view that as much more important than what our race does. So I will say the main barrier to us lacking education in our environment is because of where we come from and what we were taught about education and feeling like it's not important when in actual fact it is, because I feel like it's one of the main things that leads to all parts of life. So yeah, it is a major barrier.
And that's very enlightening, I'm not gonna lie, I did not know that. But I do agree with you with the fact that colored people aren't really what can I say, how black people are always in the spotlight of black people are marginalized and all of that. Colored people don't get the same spotlight.
Yeah, and I think that's also one of the factors that has pushed us back as people. But I will say this, I feel like, and this is why people have the dynamic of colored people are lazy, because you can tell a black person they're not gonna make it, but they're gonna push to make it because you're not gonna define them. what I feel like with us colored people, we give up so easily, and that's the sad part, because we have so much potential. We have so much of everything that we can give, but we don't, because someone along the way told us we can't, and we just choose to love in it. It's fine. So I think that's where we have to fall in our faults and admit to the fact that sometimes it's not only our circumstances but our choices and our mindsets that keeps us there. Yeah.
But do you think people would agree to that, saying that it's like your mindset that kept you from doing something?
You know, I feel like if you're a person that's still doing it, it's difficult to admit to it. But majority of the people that has made it in life that comes from a colored community will tell you that they've made mistakes in the past, and somewhere along the line they had to recognize that what they were doing wasn't working for them anymore. Most people won't even say that. Most people will probably tell you how they did not associate with the environment, not because it's a bad thing, but because there was nothing to learn from the environment. All you could learn was from people's mistakes. So I don't think there's much to disagree on in that statement, unless you fall under it, because then you obviously probably offended by the statement.
As I said earlier, you are a colored individual living in South Africa. What has your experience been like? Has it been mostly like bad because of like the stereotypes, like, you know, all of that?
I wouldn't say it's been mostly bad. Firstly, most people don't think I'm colored, especially they think most people think I'm Indian. They don't know me, so I don't think I experience it much as other people. But I will say, like, in terms of my accent, I've gotten a lot of like backlash for that, for like being colored and sounding colored, like just being associated to that race. It comes with a lot of backlash, and mostly now that I'm in tertiary, because primary and high school not so much. And I think it's also because everyone that was in that environment knew that they were in a colored environment, and they were exposed to it so much that I understood. So in terms of like coming to tertiary, I can't, as much as it's a struggle for me, I also understand that the people that's associated in this environment didn't necessarily grow up in an environment that has a lot of colors, so it will be foreign to them in a sense. Yeah.
Well, for me, I can speak for myself. From like, since I started school at 3, I mean, my first best friend was colored. I've been exposed to colored people,
And that's the thing. It's like who you expose yourself to, who you try to engage with.
Okay. So this one is a bit more like personal. I don't know like how you would say it. But like, how are colored households? Like, what is like the family? Okay, let's start with family structure. What are like the family structures in like colored households? Because I know with black communities, it's very, very common to grow up in a family where you like raised by your mother only.
Oh, okay.
So like, how is it in that community?
Most of the households I know about, it's actually quite sad, because there's so many, how can I say, different household types, but also broken, more than good. Obviously, you have every community has like mother and father households, which is good. I grew up in a single parent household with my mother only and my siblings, so I wouldn't say that's necessarily a bad thing, but it does put more pressure on you as a child, because now you're forced to also become like, in a sense, an adult. We also have children that are living with their father or their uncle or their auntie, but the sad part is most of the time they're being neglected. Most of the time there's drugs involved. Most of the time, so it's do you even call it a household is the question, you understand? And then I know there's also most people that grew up with their grandparents, either grandfather or grandmother, or both, if they're lucky. Which to me, actually, I feel like might not be the best, but it's better for the child at that moment, because most of the time the child was taken from the parents because of either alcohol abuse, drug abuse, or the parent passing on or whatsoever. So yeah, I think that's like the main types you get. We do also have like a lot of people that are raising their siblings on their own because of parents. Yeah, their parents that passed away, but most of the time I wouldn't consider them children anymore. I can say like young adults. You understand?
Are they still in like high school or like varsity?
I would say working class, 20, 21, 22. Okay. So, but I have like quite younger siblings, so that's not too bad, but it's still like I feel like a barrier because you weren't mentally prepared for it, but now you have to step into parent mode and not occasionally, temporary. It's like full time. So yeah.
And then I'm not speaking on all, like on the behalf of all black people. I'm just speaking on I'll say my culture.
Yeah.
With support. From my culture, there isn't really a big belief on like support, and by that I mean mentally. It's seen as like a taboo and all of that. Like if you're depressed, oh no, that like you can't have depression, like there's
no way.
Yes, anxiety, like what is that? It's very like uncommon for someone to say they have depression and people in their family actually helping them.
Okay.
So like in colored households, how is it?
I can't even say like it's like a no for us. I would say like what coloreds who are Christians and Islamic and we actually have a belief. I feel like they believe like it's something that's from the devil or something like that. They view it in that sense. Like I know my grandmother would view it like something like the devil's trying to get you down. When in actual fact, those things happen. It's part of life. But to a certain extent, Christians are still like against the topic, you know. And then with like colored parents in general, I feel like they, like I said, we lack so much education. Our parents, our forefathers and whatsoever. That it's such a foreign topic to them that they just feel like it's just a term that's being thrown around. They don't really understand the depth of the topic, how deep it really goes. So it's never really a serious thing for them. Because like I said, they're not educated on those things as we are. Like they went through high school and all this, they learned it at school. So we are able to better understand ourselves. So to a certain extent, that lack of education makes them not understand themselves and in turn not understand us when we feel like we're depressed, we have anxiety, we have this. So yeah, I think it's just the lack of education and also religion. Religion plays a big part. And like it was in past times, it was a no to speak about mental health. And it's still going on today with the generation that's from that time. They still are very much against it. So I think that is like one of the big problems in colored areas. And that's also why we have so much drug abuse, alcohol abuse, gun violence, you know?
So now that we've come from like a more like hectic topic, let's make it a little bit lighter. Like how do y'all guys like spend your holidays, like Christmas and all of that? Because I know like y'all guys know how to party. Like
yeah, we